All right, it is November 3rd, 2019, and I'm doing this video for my really good friend Billy Guara at Rainmaker Creative in Spokane. She is going to do a Wikipedia page for Goldbay, and I thought, rather than her and I just having a conversation and her taking down and jotting notes, I thought maybe I'll just share the journey of how Goldbay got created and a little bit of my story and background, and then give her this video so that she can write the Wikipedia page. And at the same time, I thought, well, it'd be a good YouTube video. I've got people asking me all the time, Dave, how did you get going and stuff. So the Gold Bay journey, and I'm sitting at Gold Bay Central right here. This is Gold Bay Mission Control. That's it. It's a computer, desktop light, cup of coffee. Thanks, Lynette, for the amazing cup. And this is where Gold Bay, everything that happens Gold Bay happens here. And how it all started was 45 years ago. Hard for me to say that. It's hard to believe that it's been 45 years. But when I was 11 years old, my dad told me, he said, "Get in the car." I said, "Well, where are we going?" And he said, "You'll see." And so I hopped in the car. I was with my dad. It was, a nice sunny day, and we had a 1965 four-door Comet. I do remember that, and it was rust color with a little bit of white left. Besides the rust that was on the car, it was a little bit of white left, and we didn't have a lot of money growing up, and so we're driving through town, and we get through town, and we get to the top of Spencer Hill. A lot of you who, everybody that's from Grand Forks know where Spencer Hill is. And then all of a sudden we turned off onto this dirt road, and it was really rough. And we're in this car, and I'm thinking to myself, Dad's nuts. And I said, "Where are we going?" He goes, "You'll see." And so we drove, we kept driving on this dirt road, and it was really rough, and we were rocking back and forth. And then finally we got to the end of this road, and there were three really big pickup trucks there, and they all had equipment in the back of them. And I didn't know what the heck the equipment was. I didn't know why they were there. It was the end of the road. And then we hop out of the car, and he opens the trunk, and he hands me a rusty gold pan. And in that moment, I knew we were going gold panning. Now, I don't remember anything before that day. Like, I actually asked Dad before he passed away. I said, what had you take me panning that day? Like, what had you take me up there to May Creek? And he just said, "Well, I was just trying to be a good dad and do a bunch of stuff with you kids and see what stuck." Well, I'll tell you what, this day altered my life forever, and it stuck. And so we walked up the creek, and Dad introduced me to some of the old timers up there. There were three old timers, and we had to walk into where we were. There was no road or anything. It was just walking path. And when we got up to where they were working, I just couldn't believe the mountainside. It was just, they had moved all these rocks and these boulders, and you could tell where they were digging. And I was just blown away. This 11-year-old kid, I was blown away by how much earth they had moved by hand, because it's all pick and shovel. And they had sluice boxes and water pumps, and they were processing material. And so Dad took me down to the end where no one was working. They weren't working down there anymore, and got me down on my hands and knees, and he started to point out on the bedrock. There's a bedrock layer, and then there was a layer of pea gravel, very fine, sorted pea gravel. And he said, "This is where the gold is." So I remember digging by hand and with a screwdriver, in this stuff. And there was water seeping out of the gravel because it was kind of spring runoff time. And I remember my hands were cold, and, it was just, but it didn't matter. Like, I was going to pan for gold. So I filled up my pan, and, Dad filled up his pan, and we went down to the creek, and he said to me, he says, "Well, if you're going to find gold, you got to get wet." And so I remember sitting down on a rock and putting my feet up on rocks in the creek and, learning how to pan. So I started panning, watching Dad and mimicking what he was doing. And the I was a little apprehensive. I didn't really know what I was doing, but Dad was real patient with me. He didn't take the pan up away from me. He didn't try and show me how to do anything. He just kind of let me watch him and do what he was doing. And so finally got down to just a little bit of material in the pan, and I was really scared at that point. Like, I didn't want to lose anything. So I handed the pan over to Dad, and I said, "Well, show me how to get the rest of it." And so he put a little bit of water in the pan, shook it forward, and then he swirled the pan around, and boom, there were 5 nuggets in that first pan. 5 match head sized nuggets. And that was it. My life changed. In that moment, Gold Bay 35 years later would be created because of that moment when, I saw those first 5 nuggets. They looked like baseballs to me, being 11 years old. So that was it. from that point forward, I've been chasing gold my whole life. I wound up spending most of my summers when I got my driver's license up at May Creek. I bought equipment, I bought pumps, I bought sluice boxes, picks, shovels, pans. And then I got old enough to be able to afford a dredge. And, I could go dredging in Washington State on the Similkameen River. So I spent 9 years on the Similkameen River dredging. I first started with a 4-inch dredge. And then myself, Daryl Dury, and Vaughn Taylor, we bought an 8-inch dredge in Colville. It was a big, monstrous thing. And we set that up on the Similkameen River. And I used to drive up every weekend because I used to work in Spokane. I would drive the 3.5 hours every weekend to dredge with the 8-inch dredge. And so spent a lot of summers up there, dredged on the Pend Oreille River. And then finally I moved to Spokane. I was able to find someone that would give me a work permit for working in Spokane as a welder fabricator slash designer. And, Rick Jarvis, thank you up in heaven for doing that. And I moved to Spokane. And I started to get to know computers. And this would have been, this is 2019. So in 1999, I discovered eBay. And what I discovered on eBay, it was kind of a new website and didn't really know much about it. And I kind of had some thoughts about, eBay is like Goodwill online. But I started doing some research and I found gold nuggets for sale. And I got real excited. So I found a nugget for 17 bucks and I bought it. I thought, and I was real excited. So I ran downstairs and I told Tara about, oh my God, I found this nugget online and look at this. This is a new way to get gold maybe, and might not have to go prospecting anymore because I just love gold. And, I got the nugget in the mail and I was real excited when I got the package, and then I opened it up and I was completely just so disappointed. It was a small little flake of gold for $17, and someone had used the magic of macro photography, close-up photography, and taken a blown-up picture of it and made it look much bigger than it was. There was no scale on it, so I couldn't really tell the size of it. I just saw this big nugget. And in the moment that I opened that up and I was that disappointed by what I had purchased, I said to myself, never again. I'm just never, ever going to buy gold online ever again. I'm going to start selling gold. So I had spent the previous year, 1998 it would have been, I had spent the previous summer in California dredging on a place called Oregon Creek, which is near Camptonville, California. I was there with John Plant, Jana, her brother, and John was suffering from a huge lump on his head that wound up becoming cancerous. And so we were in California dredging for gold to try and make enough money to help with John's medical fees. I was waiting out a multi-level marketing company that I had belonged to that was gold related to come back into business. They never did, but spent 3 months dredging for gold. And when we found gold, we had to go into Grass Valley, or Nevada City, actually, California, and sell it. And there was a place called the Gold Exchange, and we were selling our gold there. So after I bought the gold nugget on eBay, I thought to myself, well, I don't have any gold. Like, I don't have enough gold to sell, so I need to start, finding where to buy some. And so I called the Gold Exchange in Nevada City and I asked them, I said, do you sell gold? I'd like to start buying some gold. And they said, well, no, we don't, but there's this guy named Van that sells gold. You should give him a call. And I didn't know who Van was. I'd never met him. I had simply been given a name and a number. So I called Van and I told him, what I was up to. I said, I want to start selling gold on the internet and I don't know very much about it yet. And he goes, well, he says, how much money do you want to spend? And I said, well, let's start with $1,000. And he goes, well, number 4 mesh nuggets, those are the real popular size. And he says, so the problem is, he says, I'm on my way to Seattle right now and I'm going to visit a friend up there who's sick. He said, so I'll put the gold in the mail today and you put a check in the mail and our mail will cross. And I thought, wow, this guy's super trusting. And anyways, I did that. I put the check in the mail. I trusted him, and he put the gold in the mail after one conversation with me, and 3 days later I got it, and it was just the most beautiful gold. It was stunning, fabulous number 4 nuggets. It was from the Britannia Mining Company. It was from Quartz Creek, Yukon. Just stunning stuff. In fact, I'd love to get more of that gold if I could. I only got gold from that creek twice. But that was it. That was the start of me starting to buy and sell gold online. And I started on eBay. I did start selling gold on eBay. And there started to become a bit of a problem with selling on eBay, and that was their fees and their return policies. And it was just really hard to uh, do business, particularly in the gold nugget market, because there's way less margins for gold nuggets than there is for widgets. You know, when you're selling a widget and you can charge 100% markup, you know, the PayPal and eBay fees, they don't really come into account much as they do with gold, where you're working on a anywhere from 3 to like 11% margin. And so I decided, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to start my own website. And so I started a website called motherlodegold.com. And in fact, I still own the domain name, and a little bit more about that towards the end of this video. I'll share a little bit about that. So I started motherlodegold.com, and I took on the nickname of MLG Dave, and MLG stands for Motherlode Gold. So I started an auction site where I was selling my own gold nuggets on my own website, and it was just a little bit easier to make money. In the meantime, I was still active on eBay, and one of the things that happened was I started to discover, and it was kind of a fluke how I discovered it, but there were some gold nuggets. There were some big gold nuggets going for sale on eBay. And I thought, well, he shows a scale, he gives you the weight, the nuggets look good, they're bright, they're shiny. So I actually did buy, even though I said I was never going to buy on eBay again, I wound up buying 2 of these gold nuggets. Well, when I got them, I noticed something really strange about them. And the thing that I noticed about them that was strange was that they sounded weird. They had this kind of a tinkly sound to them. They sounded like you were carrying a handful of change. And when you shake change in your hand, it has kind of this tinny, glassy sound. And when you have nuggets in your hand and you shake them, they're kind of a dull, almost no sound at all to them. And I thought, there's something odd about these. So I started looking at them very closely under the microscope, and I discovered that they were man-made. These gold nuggets were man-made. Now, they did contain gold. They were 83% pure. I had them tested. However, they were manufactured nuggets. And I took a real exception to that, and I let eBay know what was going on. And they said, well, there's nothing we can do about it because there is, we're not involved in the transaction, so it's buyer beware. And I thought, well, that's kind of crap. That is horrible for the consumers. So I said, well, I want to start exposing, this whole scam about the man-made nuggets, and I'm going to put some stuff on my website. In fact, I want to start doing some articles and showing what are fake. And they said, well, that's between you and whoever reads your article. If you get sued for slander or whatever, that's up to you. We're not part of it. So they gave me permission to do the posts. However, they said that they weren't going to be part of it. So at that point, I started to realize that, you know what, I need a much better looking website than I have. And so I hired a guy named Mac and Sea-Dog. I hired 2 guys. And Mark, you're going to probably watch his videos, so it'll be funny. So Mac started designing a website for me, an auction site that was custom. And one of the things that Mac said probably 3 or 4 days after he started designing for me, he said, wouldn't it be cool if the domain name Goldbay was available? Like eBay, but Goldbay. And I thought, oh crap, that would be totally cool. So I went and looked it up on the registrar, and it was funny. The name Goldbay had been registered 3 days before Mac told me to look up the domain name. And I'm like, oh man, really? So I made an offer to the guy. When I found out that the guy had registered the name 3 days before, I offered him $1,500 in 1999 for the name Goldbay, and he took it. So that's how Motherlode Gold became Goldbay, and I still own Motherlode Gold. It's 2019 right now, and I haven't done any stuff on Motherlode Gold website, although I do have a Motherlode Gold Facebook group. I haven't done Motherlode Gold auctions for many, many, many years. However, in 2020, they're coming back. So that's just kind of a little heads up. I am going to reinvigorate that website. Of course, I'll still have Goldbay. And so here we are. It's 2019. Goldbay has grown into a very large, much larger than I ever thought it would be, business where I'm buying and selling gold on online, pay dirt online, organically on Google. I rank very high for a lot of the keywords. There's a lot of different iterations of what's gone on with Goldbay, and it's going to continue to grow and develop. I will never stop growing. I'm doing this for the rest of my life. One of the things that happened that was really great out of all of this is I met Tony Fraser 20 years ago in Tucson, and when I was still traveling around with Van died about 6 years ago. He was older even when I met him, but he introduced me to Tony about 20 years ago. And one of the things he said to me that very first time I went to Tucson, Van said to me, he says, when I go to the great golden helicopter in the sky, I want you to become the biggest gold dealer in the United States. And, Tony and I hit it off immediately. And one of the things that happened a couple of years ago is Tony came to me with an opportunity that was presented to him, and that was to buy and own the Colorado Quartz gold mine. And so Tony and I purchased the gold mine 2 years ago. I know that there's been some question and some rumors and some talking about whether Tony's still a partner or not and all that stuff. And yeah, Tony's totally a partner. He's going to be a partner for the rest of, he's not ever going to not be a partner in this gold mine. I just happen to live at the mine. So I'm here all the time, and Tony comes when he can for, between shows and after shows. And Tony is totally integral part of this mine. I couldn't be here without him. So Tony, thank you for that. And Nadine, of course, thank you for supporting that guy you call your husband. And, we're looking to mine the most beautiful gold on the planet. We've been finding gold, and, we're going to continue to do that for a long, long time. I love living in California. If you follow me on YouTube, I post all kinds of videos. I do some personal coaching and development stuff because I'm a junkie about that. I'll post a lot of music videos that I love because I'm totally a heavy metal headbanger. I post pictures of camo because, my dogs and me live together, and they're my little buddies. They keep me company when it's cold up here, like the brisk cold 37 degrees at night. And, continue to watch the Goldbay webpage and Motherlode Gold. And then Billy, thank you for doing the wiki page. You're just amazing at what you do. If you have any comments or questions down below about prospecting, metal detecting, more about techniques and tips and tricks, I'm willing to answer those. I'm going to do a lot more video content. I'm going to try and do a video every day for people. I've been asked over and over and over again, and I get hundreds of emails a month about people sending me pictures of rocks that they think are gold. So my next video, or a video very shortly coming up, is going to be, I'm going to teach you to see how you can see whether something's pyrite or gold. I'm actually going to teach you to see something that you currently can't see. So stay tuned for that. Anyways, that's it for now. It's kind of just a little synopsis of how Goldbay got started. And Billy, of course, if you have questions, let me know.